my name is Penelope. I'm in London. I do chart readings, and I also look at astrology and complex PTSD imprints from childhood to evolve them. But what I'm going to do now is part of my work is using astrology to understand the dilemmas of our imprints and our early dysregulation, which means that we struggle with our adult lives in achieving what we want to. And basically, I use astrology to help us to understand how to evolve our own issues that we have, our hypersensitivity and such like. What I'm going to do now is read this chart and give you a bit of information. This is the current chart of today, and it's coming up to a full moon. I'm sorry, a new moon in Libra. Get me right there. It's going to be at 23 degrees, and it's going to be in the UK. It's going to be at 7:30 p.m. and it will vary from country to country depending on where you are. You can basically do a check and find out where that will be for you. But it will be October the 16th, 2020. The new moon in Libra, at the moment it's at 13 degrees, coming up to 23 degrees. So if I push this chart forward by a few hours, you can see here by 6 hours, and then it will be in 6 hours, it's going to be 17 degrees. And the moon takes 2.5 days through a sign. So then we have, let's go by minutes now, and we're going to go by, let's see, hour. So then 18 degrees, and we're going to go to 23. So you can see that degree moving there. You can go to this site and play with this. This is AstroSeek. It's a great site. So you can get your own birth chart there as well if you have the time. But if you want a chart reading and want to learn a bit, then do by all means contact me. Right, so here we go. We got 23 degrees, and at this point it will be in Libra at 23.52 degrees. And the new moon in Libra is where we have a strong need for balance and harmony now. And we also will desire things, we might desire things to keep things nice, rather than going into the bigger questions, because we don't want to disturb the peace. But actually, this is a time when we need to be talking about our good feelings and our bad feelings, and not being afraid to do that, because we've got so much fear that if we say the wrong thing to somebody, and we, half of us, or probably more than half of us, we just don't go around communicating properly as human beings. We're in so much fear. So when we want to speak something, we're afraid of being rejected. And as a result of that, things don't get said. And then people hold on to their pain for a lot longer than they need to. When, in understanding our differences, we can come to loving understanding and balance, even though we've got differences, and get to live in a better way. So wherever the moon is in your, whether this is happening for you, it's going to be happening in my 11th house. And what you would need to do is know your birth time or if you know your chart, just look where 23 degrees of Libra is. And the moon is where, we have a sense of security, and also it describes our sensitivities and our instincts and how we react to our surroundings. And the moon also, shows us what our childhood experiences were like with our mother or whoever parented us when we were small. So the moon in Libra, if you had your moon in Libra at birth, I know a couple of people who have, that basically it's where we're looking for safety in a relationship and, to make other people happy. And we want a rich social life as well. And sometimes we can find things, that don't satisfy us with this placement. And they can have a strong need for balance and harmony. And sometimes that can be counterproductive, because sometimes we may, keep the peace and not speak our minds. And it's also wanting to keep things nice and, not wanting to venture into the fundamental questions. So we need to look at that with this moon going on, that we don't shut ourselves down and just fawn. So what is fawn in complex PTSD? Fawning is like a sort of codependency where we're being nice to people, not particularly feeling that way, but we're being nice just to keep the peace. And that can be very damaging for us. And particularly if there's abuse involved, for instance, you know, so we have to make sure that we're being our authentic selves. With this placement, there can be, you know, some shallow sort ofness going on because of that fear. And it can also make things volatile as well, because if you hold on to not being who you are and not being your authentic self long enough, you know, you can get to a point where you just explode or flip with people. So Libra is not so much about balance as in learning to balance ourselves. And we need to be able to share our good or not so good feelings with our friends and our partners. We don't need to be, you know, happy and, you know, pretend that we're okay when we're not okay. And we don't need to be afraid of who we really are, and, you know, drop the idea that what we've got to do what other people expect of us all the time. And you can, with this, we can make things pleasant, you know, and we want pleasant surroundings. This new moon, I keep saying that, new moon, and Mercury is retrograde, so do forgive me. This new moon is opposing Mars. So we'll look at a few of these aspects of what's going on, and you can see that it's also Mars is in square with Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn. Pluto, transmutation, you know, the big one. It's like birth, death, transmutation, transformation. Jupiter to do with truth, overseas, and the bigger picture. And Saturn, breaking it down really briefly, this is not just all that it means, but it also, that means restriction in itself, you know, where we're being held back a little bit and we're getting to know our wisdom. So that's the sun and the moon in opposing Mars. And then we've got this trine going on to Venus, which is nice. It's trining to Jupiter and Pluto. And then as it goes forward, it's going to also trine to Saturn. And that's going on for about, I think, until the end actually of the month, you know, just about. And the other good thing I'll show you in a minute, the square to Mars is going to drop off. So we've got Mars retrograde for another month, but then when it goes forward, when it goes backwards, it's retrograde, sorry, it's going to basically come out of square temporarily, which is great. I think, you know, it's a good thing. That's towards the end of the month as well, I believe. So we've got, in a new moon, we always have the moon is conjunct the sun, and then we know it's opposing Mars, it's square to Jupiter, and it's square to Pluto, and also here, sorry, square to Pluto, and it's also square to Saturn in effect as well. And we've got it trining the MC up here. We got the trine. Let's have a look. Moon aspects. The moon. I don't know if that's right there. Moon, trine, MC. So the MC, we can't see it on this chart. And then it's trining the node. So the node is currently down here. So we've got a nice trine to this node as well. So this is our life path and it's trine. There's other things going on as well. So don't take this chart just being the be all and end all. This is a regular, just quick read. So the sun is at 23, the moon is at 23, Mercury is at 11, it's gone retrograde, and for the next few weeks, it's going back 25 degrees of Libra. Again, Mercury is here, it's on its way back to here, 25 degrees of Libra. So let's now take this chart forward slightly. We're going to go by days. So this is the 17th. And we can see the chart still maintaining the T-square, a lot of tension. And here we go. It's still got, then we've got Mercury also opposing Uranus. And that's they're both retrograde. And then we're going to, here you go. I want to show you this square coming off, this square to Mars. So let's go a week, let's just keep going actually. There you go. So where are we? This is going to be, you know, it looks to me like it gives us peace, to be honest with you, for a little while anyway. So we've got that Mars is going to move off. There you go. There we go. That is on the 7th of November. You can see that's quite good. There's going to be a reprieve, but it will then a few days, you know, a week later, it's going to go direct again, and then it will square in all of these again. So if we come back to today, the chart right now, and we have, so the sun, what does the sun opposition to Mars mean? It means the sun is in part, you know, it's our planet of vitality, and Mars is the planet of action. So there we have that there. Mars is the planet of action. And with the sun, when it squares, or it's squaring Mars, it's like a combative light shining on, you know, on us, on our potential as well, and on our own power. But it can also be very impulsive, and we can be very pushy and want to push things through. And, you know, we might feel a bit of fearlessness in us when we're going about this sort of square here. And then if we look at another one, let's look at the sun square Saturn. That was the sun opposition Mars, and the sun square Saturn is to do with, again, we've got the vitality of the sun, you know, life, and we've got restriction and structure, which is Saturn. And with its square, it's issues surrounding our responsibility. And, you know, it's where we're having a sober outlook, and it's about having a reality check, you know, what needs really to be dealt with. And, you know, the hard way might feel like really annoying, but, you know, there are benefits from doing things thoroughly and slowly and steady. And, you know, this is at the moment, that's a 2 degree, it's in within 2 degrees of Saturn. So then the sun square Pluto, you can see here as well, the sun square in Pluto is also where Pluto is the planet of transformation. And it's also potential conflicts, and it's to do with renewal and healing with the sun involved. And it's also power struggles. But, you know, these power struggles that we have, you know, can lead to personal empowerment, or they can also lead into difficulties depending on how we want to channel our own energy. So the planets aren't doing anything to us. We can make choices, which is really important to understand. You know, the planets work with based on what am I feeling. With the Mars square Pluto is an interesting one, as we can currently see that as well. Mars Pluto, I'm not going to read all of the aspects, I'm just giving you a few. And, you know, the Mars again is our drive, and then Pluto is transformation. So, you know, with this square, it's to do with the potent forces, it's to do with our psyche being unleashed, and it's like our nature manifests more and, you know, fully, so that we're sort of understanding something, the depths of the psyche. And there's a potential for anger and violence to surface with this square to Pluto with Mars. You know, Mars is the warrior energy, and Pluto wants to transform. So we need to be careful and, you know, direct our actions in a way that's to do with healing and regeneration and being kind. But, you know, sometimes we have to push, and that's part of life as well. But, you know, and it will depend on our consciousness, how we deal with these things. So we've got a way to go. I think I'll just look at one more, actually. I want to see this. We've got Jupiter sextile to Neptune, which is nice. And then you see here, Jupiter is sextile to Neptune. So also, so Pluto sextile Neptune is our inspiration and faith. And we know that, you know, Pluto, the transformation, and when it flows like that, it's a nice energy. You know, it's where there's a need to eliminate things that are unrealistic, and, you know, to find a new pathway for our future, and also embracing personal or global, you know, it's for all of us. It's like Neptune covers, you know, beyond this realm as well. And it's also to a time when it's about healing, you know, it's the power of us being forgiving to ourselves, or maybe to others, and that's an interesting word, because sometimes when we've not been wounded, you know, badly, then there's nothing to forgive. And sometimes it can be very difficult if it was heavy duty trauma. So don't lay a big, you know, sort of thing on yourself about forgiveness. You can use other words. It's like, you know, coming to terms with would be another word, for instance, or, you know, working through or integrating. So forgiveness can be a heavy word depending on what we've been through in life. And Lilith here is, you know, to do with our sort of rage and our, you know, not wanting to follow the patriarchal rules and whatever. Lilith in mythology, she broke free from the Garden of Eden. She would not lay below Adam. And What else have we got going on here? Looks like we've got Uranus trining Venus. So let's look at Uranus trine Venus. Uranus, can I see it here? So I'm just having a look. And I think, anyway, Uranus is breaking free of limitations and Venus is about our needs. So with the trine, you know, we're definitely figuring something out, but they're both Uranus is retrograde and, you know, Venus is in Virgo. So, you know, we're looking at the idea of perfection as well and sorting out routines and looking at our needs in detail with it in Virgo. Okay, that's it. If you want me to read your chart, then just book a session with me or to have a chat about, you know, complex PTSD as well. Okay, catch you later. Thanks for watching.